Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to our second show on our new night and time. Speed Drink and We Know Things, and I'm Carrie, and Kevin is sitting to my right.
What's up?
What's up? And we are drinking tonight. We are drinking a very special brew tonight, and it is one that Kevin himself brewed. And just got put in, not bottled, because he put it in our kegerator. And so now we have this wonderful beer that he created on tap, which is something between a Killian's and a Yingling, I would say.
Yeah, he's not Jewish, but he brews.
What? I have no idea what you're saying there.
He's not Jewish, but he brews. Wow.
Oh my God, Hebrews. Okay. Great. Now we start off with horrible jokes, but your beer is very good. It's sort of.
I have better hopes.
Well, it's weird because it's a little almost, and I said this before, and it still reminds me like banana bread. Actually, I get a little bit like that.
I think
like,
it might have a little leftover from the pumpkin beer that was sitting in the keg for so long. Maybe I didn't clean it enough, and a little bit of that seeped into this beer. I'm not sure. I thought I cleaned it pretty well.
I think it's good.
Yeah, I like it, but it's not what I expected to be.
It's got a tiny bit of a little hop to it at the end.
There were 3 different hops I don't remember now in it. Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't expect a beer this color to be hop. It's not hoppy, but there is definitely a little bite at the end of it. And I wouldn't expect that from a beer like this. That's pretty good, though. So you should be able to, if you can do this for a living, I mean, well, you could do
a different scale.
Yeah, I know. Maybe take over Wall and Paul Pack Brewery.
You make a good when you judge pot pie, but do you want to cook for a living?
No. It's been a long time since I made that. I gave that as an offer, like to make that one when Phil came over. You picked chicken parm. It's super easy to make. It's like there's literally like 4 ingredients. It's like celery, carrots, flour, and like Crisco. That's literally all the ingredients. Oh no, I missed the big one, chicken. So
yeah, it's not.
Yeah, 5. There's 5 ingredients, and then like some I can't ever leave well enough alone. I put salt and pepper and.
So 5 ingredients turns into 15.
5 ingredients plus spices. Spices don't count.
I think they do count.
No, they don't count as ingredients.
Ask the Colonel from Kentucky Fried Chicken about his 11 herbs and spices.
Wow, you rattled that off fast. Jeez. Those are a really good grouping of herbs and spices. I really like that. What are you doing? I have no. What are you doing? I have this already sent in the chat room and everything.
You can pull the chat back and see what's going on.
Why? No, but nothing's going on.
Okay.
Chat's been very quiet lately because everyone's on that HAPS thing. And we don't do HAPS because we can't do HAPS because we don't have that set up availability.
The audience is actually on HAPS?
Yeah, and listening and typing in the HAPS chat room. Yes.
I didn't realize you could join as a listener to it. I thought that was the tool for.
No, it's like another Twitch kind of thing. It reminds me a little bit of what was that horrible Podbean? Reminds me a little bit of that.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. In case nobody could see that, since we're not streaming any camera, Kevin just rolled his eyes. Dan, if you're listening, Kevin rolled his eyes at HAPS. Dan calls it craps, so yeah.
But
he still uses it, yeah. Well, apparently they approached him for some, free deal, or I don't know. You know how Dan is. He goes for anything that, will get us even farther reach. But we're not going on this for farther reach because we're not on HAPS. Right. And I'm fine with that. So, We have a mix of articles tonight. I found some. He found some. Finally, it was 2 weeks of nothing but his articles. So I figured I better do some research
Yeah,
because
you better find something.
people are
Do
gonna
your research.
people are gonna leave us if it's just you with your stuff. We actually have some interesting things tonight. I noticed that, and some of ours actually go together, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
So
because usually have boring things.
fuck you. I don't have boring things.
What?
Didn't you just say you usually have boring things?
You said, "Oh, he actually has interesting things tonight," and I said, "Oh, because I usually have boring things."
Oh, well, you have some weird things. I put one thing way at the end. I'm like, really?
Well, maybe you
it's
don't know
cute, though.
why I chose it.
Why you chose it?
Click chose it.
You chose it. Okay. Now that I'm done making fun of you. All right. So the first article that I selected of your group is the one that says exclusive Ford doubles Lightning production target on strong pre-launch demand. So I did put the link in the chat room. So do you want to talk about this before I pop in with this? Is this what you were talking about before? Was it Ford? I thought it was another truck company. No, I guess it was Ford you were talking about the other day when we were in the car.
Yes.
Okay. Did you pay your ticket? Speaking of being in the car.
So this car, I think we had talked about before.
Change of subject.
It was announced a couple of weeks ago or a couple months ago. I don't know. Time is an illusion for me, but
It's been a couple months, I think.
it's available because they are now ramping up production due to demand.
I don't know how they are because that'll feed into my next article. But go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean,
It's
that's
kind of cool looking.
that's the rumor at least, but it is
Is
pretty
that
cool.
a frunk?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Also, it's got a trunk and a so it's a pickup truck for those who aren't looking at links and stuff.
It's an F-150 that's electric.
Yes, and it's the
F-150 is one of the like most popular pickup
yeah
trucks.
because it's one of the power horses. Like that's like for like the construction workers, like for like
Yeah, it's not like the crazy heavy duty like double axle one.
like no.
And it's not like the tiny little like pickup truck. It's kind of in like that sweet spot, I guess,
Yeah.
of pickup trucks. So it's super popular.
Yeah, but like what's really cool about this is so first off, it's a double cab is that what they call it when you've got like the it's like a 4-door cab. So it's a 4-door cab, and then of course it's got the pickup truck bed in the back, but like the whole giant engine area under the hood is actually a frunk.
Yes, the trunk that's in the front.
Yeah. So it's actually very nice. I mean, like I just realized I thought, oh, they got the engine. You know, they have the hood up to look at the engine. And I'm looking at it going, wait, where's the engine? I'm like, oh, wait, it's a trunk.
Yeah, because it's electric, so you're sitting on all the batteries. Like it's every other inch of the car is batteries, and then the motors are relatively small and they're attached to the wheels.
Right.
I think this one has 4 motors, which means each wheel has its own motor.
Well, the cool thing about this is this the one that you were saying that like you can actually so say you're a construction worker, right? Like my dad was a building contractor, and he used to he had a Ford truck actually. And drive to the work site, you use it like for manly things or womanly things. I keep realizing I need to be more inclusive and stop having gender bias. So, whatever. But apparently, is this the one that you can actually plug like your power tools into and like actually use like that to power
they were
stuff
definitely
too?
talking about. I think you can do that with a lot of electric cars because on your gas car, like we have a Jeep, and it's not an electric Jeep. We just have a regular 4-door Jeep from 2014, and it has an outlet. You can plug in items to it. Now it has limited power. Though.
Yeah.
I've used it to charge my laptop for work.
You use it for the tire, like we have like a small little mini compressor thing.
Yeah. It does 120 volts, which is like a wall outlet, which a lot of cars don't, but more trucks have that. But the power output is very limited. I tried to plug in something a while ago. I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was a more powerful laptop.
Yeah,
or something,
it didn't work.
And it like flicked the it flicked off because it couldn't handle the power draw. But anyways, yeah, this is gonna let you plug in power tools which draw on power.
Yeah.
So it becomes your portable battery pack on the job site, which is cool. But of course, it drains your power.
Yeah, right. And this is not a hybrid. Like if you have no battery left, you are going nowhere.
No, but they're
does this have a backup one?
In the original advertisement, you could optionally get an electric generator that you could put in the back of the bed and use that to charge the truck if you needed to.
Gotcha.
Of course, that mitigates the reduction in carbon dioxide emissions if you're using an electric.
You're not minimizing your carbon footprint by doing that.
Well, it's not minimized, but it's less.
Gotcha. So they're all ramping up the production and all that, so that's great. Are you done with this? That means
there's a demand.
Right. So you're
people
done?
actually like my point of this is that it's cool and it seems like people actually want it because for a long time, electric cars were like, oh no, these are for like green hippies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like the electric car idea. The problem is if you live in a city, like you don't have easy access to charge.
In a city, you probably don't drive an F-150.
That's true too. That's very true.
Different market, but yeah, it's definitely a problem in cities. But then again, cities are pushing to have people not keep cars in their city.
Yeah.
So if you live in the city, your city would probably prefer you don't keep a car there and you.
Well, it depends on the
rent
city.
A car or something, but the biggest cities like New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, cars take up a lot of room and they're dirty.
Yeah.
Not so dirty when they're electric though.
Right.
But they take up a lot of space.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, think about the block in Harlem where we are. Imagine if just all those cars weren't there, and you could add some more like plants and make that like a green space. That'd be pretty nice.
That'd be very nice.
Way different block.
Then how the hell are we getting into the city with 2 dogs and a cat?
Rent a car.
Most rental places don't like you having pets, and Aria, you sneeze and she's like, with her hair.
Well, I know it's not necessarily practical for us right now, but that's the thing I need.
Yeah, well, I never do what people want me to do.
Clearly.
Right. Well, so this is all well and good and exciting, but this kind of ties into an article I found that can cause problems. Hey, Kit, sorry, just saw that you're here. Here's, I don't think you saw this, and I just saw this one today. So the title of the article is "The World is Still Short of Everything, Get Used to It." And it says pandemic-related product shortages from computer chips to construction materials were supposed to be resolved by now. Instead, the world has gained a lesson in the ripple effects of disruption. And it starts by talking about this woman who has like a little shop, like a kitchen supply store, and she can't get things in. And she said she's, has to pay surcharges to cover really high shipping costs. And she's already placed orders for Christmas items like wreaths and baking pans, which is much earlier than she normally did. And she goes, it's nuts. It's definitely not getting back to normal. And it's a disaster. So apparently, we already knew that there was like a shortage of computer chips, right? Like that's what has been driving the price. Yes. Yeah. Since like right at the very, very beginning of the pandemic, it started, I think, pretty much. Yeah, because it started in China, and China started shutting shit down in January.
Yeah, I guess we didn't start to see the effects a little bit later, but we started hearing about it. Yeah.
And so the problem is things like, so for instance, Toyota just said that they're slashing its global production of cars by 40%. Because they can't get metal parts, plastics, and raw materials. Construction companies are paying more for paint, lumber, and hardware. Sometimes they have to wait weeks to months to get what they need. And then here's the other issue. So it started with the shutdown because of COVID, and then things slowly started to open up again. But at the beginning of the opening up, we had that giant, the hell was it? The Evergreen, I think is the name of it. For some reason, I remember it. Evergiven. Sorry, I was close. That giant ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal
for like a week and a half.
Yeah, and so that caused a whole shitload of mess too, and so that backed things up even more, believe it or not. And then so now you have all these issues where like all this is just compounded, and the thing is that the international commerce, you realize now how much you rely on world trade when something like this happens. And now apparently at one port in China where they have like a lot of like the big, they ship out a lot of stuff from China to everywhere else, to the US and all that. Apparently there was one case of COVID and they shut the whole port down for like, I don't know, for a couple days. And it's like, whoa. So they got like, crazy. And so now that kicked more shit into problems. And so And it says a shipping container that cannot be unloaded in Los Angeles because too many dock workers are in quarantine is a container that cannot be loaded with soybeans in Iowa, leaving buyers in Indonesia waiting and potentially triggering a shortage of animal feed in Southeast Asia. The unexpected jump for televisions in Canada or Japan exacerbates the shortage of computer chips, forcing auto manufacturers to slow production lines from South Korea to Germany to Brazil. And they're saying that there's no end in sight. This is a company based in Cork, Ireland that makes software used to manage supply chains. Because everybody should be assuming we're going to have an extended period of disruptions. And they were talking about how, like, they have to, they said it's getting worse. It hasn't bottomed out yet. That things are so backed up. A supplier in Japan that used to take 4 to 6 weeks to deliver key devices now takes half a year. It's really bad, and we've seen this. I don't know, you haven't been out as much as I have because you work from home, and when you're here and I've been off, I've been going grocery shopping and doing errands, and I've gone by several car dealerships, and for a while there wasn't like hardly any cars on the lots at all. Like down in Milford, we keep getting a letters and postcards. They want to buy our Jeep, even though it's got like almost 90,000 miles on it.
Probably can't get another car.
Yeah, right. Everybody, I went by Wayne County Ford the other day, and they had a bunch of cars in the lot. Finally, every single one of them were used. There wasn't a new one on the lot. All used cars. Like nobody has new cars anymore. Oh, my chiropractor, she was saying that she decided she was going to buy a new Subaru, and she went to order it, and the Subaru dealer was like, it's going to take at least 2 months, if not longer, to get it. Wow is right. Like, it's crazy.
I have one hope for this situation.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that this accelerates the technology for recycling. Because, especially when it comes to computer parts, and that's a big part of this, right? Because computer chips are in everything, cars,
computers,
cell phones, yeah.
Cell phones. Pretty much anything with anything electronic anymore, really.
And there's only like 3 places in the world that are manufacturing like 99% of the computer chips. But so there's like the manufacturing idea, so you can distribute the manufacturing, but then there's also the mining. There's only a few places in the world that are mining key resources like lithium for lithium-ion batteries. So what I'm hoping is that these like crazy deposits of recycled computer parts, I'm hoping that this will encourage whoever needs to be encouraged, I'm not even sure who, to recycle those parts, pull them apart, get the silicon out, reuse the PCB boards, whatever you can, in order to one, minimize this lack of resources, and then also prevent these like giant pileups of garbage, which is like, it's going to take, if you just throw like metals into the ground, they're going to take like thousands of years to break down into something that you'd want to harvest again. It's a problem that we've been growing into, and I don't know exactly how long, but probably somewhere
since the Industrial Revolution. Probably.
Yeah, we've been backing ourselves into this corner where it's easier to like make things from raw materials that we mine from natural resources than it is to like deconstruct those things.
Just like that.
Which is funny because we've been playing this game Valheim, and you mine natural resources and you make things, but you can't unmake them and recycle the resources. And thinking about it, it's kind of true, in real life, that there's a lot of things that you might buy at the store that you'd be hard pressed to take apart and be able to reuse those resources to make something else. It's not easy to do.
No.
I don't know what it is, but like in your cell phone, if you ever like open it up or you smash it, break it apart, there's like so many different types of metals and parts in there that are really small, and it's without a lot of, I mean, I don't even know how you would begin to take that back apart to be able to build a new one. Those same parts.
No. And I mean, it's not just computer stuff either. Like we went to Three Hammers Winery last weekend for the wine club members thing, and we were talking to one of the owners, and he was like, so they have, excuse me, they don't grow their own grapes, because this area of Pennsylvania is not really conducive to growing the grapes that they want to use. So he buys the grapes and then like makes the wine. And they're saying that they got some amazing vintages from a lot of different places, and that they're working on wines, and they have them like they're ready, like they're getting ready to start the process, and they have the fermenting ready to go and all that. But the problem is they don't have any bottles. So wine bottles, he can't. I mean, like that's something that I thought is, I mean, glass is recyclable. So why isn't there something like, and so there's like, he can't get a hold of enough bottles, and he's sweating bullets because you can't leave wine in a cask, while it's, you know, fermenting or not ferment, whatever it is that, really it does that, if he leaves it too long, he's going to lose it. And that's an entire year vintage.
And there's wine and there's different glass bottles like all around the country in different spots. So you'd think there would be lots of different locations that would be taking those bottles, recycling them into bottles,
right,
into the bottles that you can use. But I don't know, a little bit that I've read and seen about recycling is the process and the technology, if you will, is really not where a lot of people might think it is for recycling materials. And so I think that's something that it's another like opportunity for humans to advance. Like we can make some really cool things, but we can't unmake them into raw materials that we can then, remake.
Reuse, yeah.
And like
I mean, there are places that do
like
it.
the end of the line for wood,
right?
Like based materials, tree-based
Yes.
materials. Like you can't recycle wood and make it into like a wood plank. Like it doesn't. I mean,
Right.
They kind of do with like particle board and stuff,
Right.
but I don't think it's even paper. But it ends up being really crappy. There's been some advancement, like you may have seen, like you get a package from Amazon and it doesn't have like styrofoam in it. It'll have like this
blown up
paper.
No, well, it has paper, but I get a lot of ones with like air pillows.
Oh yeah, that's terrible. But
yeah,
but a lot what I do like when I see is the like paper based like insulation. So it gets one more life. Paper gets one more life as that. And after that, I guess it goes back to the earth. But at least you can grow another tree.
Right.
When it comes to like metals,
yeah, you can't really grow another rod of iron.
There's only a finite amount of metal in the earth and all that. So.
Well, that's why we make plastic. Yeah. So.
Other problems with that.
Yeah. So this is another one of yours, and this is a little techy. So I'm not really. I don't have a lot to say on this one. I only glanced at it briefly.
It's a little nerdy, but I just wanted to
say make sure you're talking to in layman's terms.
So I like Firefox. It's never been like front and center as far as browsers go.
I like the Fox.
It's an open source browser, which means you can look at the code. And the biggest browser right now is Google Chrome, so chances are you're probably using that. It overtook Internet Explorer a while ago. So Firefox you can use on Android, you can use it on Windows, Mac, Linux, you can use it on everything. So a lot of Firefox has become very privacy focused. I like it because it's not owned by Google, which is an ads company, so they're not trying to mine your data and do advertisements. And it's not owned by Apple, where it's only like optimized for their platform. So another feature they introduced recently are multi-account containers. So something they introduced a year or two ago that was cool. They called it the Facebook container.
Yeah, you put that online.
Yeah. So the Facebook container creates a new like separate environment for Facebook where Facebook doesn't have access to the rest of your browsing history.
Oh, that's what it does.
So
it contains it.
Yeah.
Puts a little pen around
because the way that the internet is built is it's very open. And so when you go to a website and it says, oh, do you want to use cookies? Or, I mean, there's something recently that the EU instituted for they have to tell you about using cookies, but that's only EU thing. They don't have to do that in the US, but a lot of websites will do that anyway. So they're telling you using cookies. A cookie is just a little tiny piece of data that they save in your file on your computer that identifies you. It'll have like what's needed to keep your session so you're logged in, but it could have other things in there. And what a lot of websites have developed, and Facebook is like really crazy about, and Google too, is that they use these cookies to track you around the web, because around the web, a lot of websites have put in Facebook buttons and little plugins so that you can like something on Facebook, share it on Facebook. What those do is add a little bit of code to each website that checks if you have a Facebook cookie saved. And if you have that cookie saved, now it knows who you are.
Oh, God.
Because that cookie is logged into your Facebook session. And so any website that has anything with Facebook on it, and a lot of them do for like sharing stuff, is going to know, one, that you are who you are, two, that you went to this website, and they maybe can also track stuff you've done on that website. You clicked on this news article or whatever. So the container contains your sessions. All those cookies that are saved from Facebook are not accessible anywhere else. They can't check for those cookies. And now, so with this, it's creating multi-account containers, so you can use that with other websites that you might want to log into that also do a lot of tracking, LinkedIn, all the Google stuff. But you can also just separate out like work and private stuff. So you can create a container that's like, oh, this is my work stuff, so it's over here. So I'm logged into work Google, maybe, and then I have a private Google, and then they're separate, so you don't have to like connect them. Because if you've ever tried to like log out of Google and log into another Google account, it like wants to tie them together, and so it's
not always
making you I
have all my accounts separate on here.
On Chrome, yeah, but it's a separate user. But you're using the same Chrome, so it knows that like those accounts are connected. If you don't use Chrome, if you use Firefox, it'll ask you to like sign out and then sign in, and you can switch accounts. So Google's made it fairly easy for that, but it's also like tying together. It's like, oh, we know that like this personal account is tied to this work account.
Right.
So we track the activity of this work account and the activity of this personal account, and then we tie it together. You know, it's the same person. And so you have a bigger picture of that person and what they do.
Gotcha.
It's like, oh, so we know that they're a teacher. We know that they use these resources. We know that they go to this and put stuff on YouTube and blah, blah, blah.
It's, I got burnt this weekend. Actually, I think it was on Friday. I woke up and I was checking my email, and I got an email from Grubhub that my order for IHOP in the Bronx had been canceled due to suspicious activity. I was like, what? And it was like $150 order. I'm like, who? First off, yes, it's suspicious. Who's ordering $150 worth of IHOP? And in the South Bronx. And then, so that one was already taken care of. And then I realized there was another charge at like 4 a.m. for some kind of Chinese restaurant. And I looked at, and that one went through. And I don't know how they're, like, they call it their security software, whatever. Like it should go off like as a warning bell, like if there's like some sort of weird charge. But like this one, first off, it was delivered around 4:10 in the morning. And it was like $80 worth of Chinese food and $100 tip.
Now, did you happen to see the address for where these things were going?
Yes, it was my name and some random address, like on 183rd Street. Like it's in the Bronx near my school.
So is it possible that someone turned on one of your computers at school and was able to log in and guess your password and order stuff?
I don't know how they were able to guess my password
for the computer.
Yeah. But also, I don't think it happened unless it was like a custodian or something. I don't know, because like who's like who would think to do $100 tip at 4 a.m? Like, I don't know, that seems odd. Well, anyhow.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing is odd,
yeah.
But still, like I'm concerned about the coincidence that it was at the same location.
It was the IHOP just up the road from EVA.
Yeah. So I'd be concerned about that.
Well, I mean, I don't know how they turned on my computer because I took the monitor.
Or give me another monitor.
Well, that would have to be somebody who has access to the back office, but I don't.
Or some other, like, did
but
you
I mean,
sign into any other computers there?
Not that weren't in my classroom.
not they weren't in your classroom?
Right.
Or what in your
Just in the back
classroom?
office. There's no computer in the classroom that I signed into. In the
You know,
back
Chromebooks
office.
or anything?
Well, all of the Chromebooks have, but I have, those are all locked up, and I'm the only one with the key. So nobody got into that card. So I think it was just some sort of,
Seems
just
strange
happened to
that
be,
it's
yes.
right there.
Yes, it does. But I don't know how they would have gotten anything.
I don't know either, but
And why all of a sudden now? Literally like a week before I'm coming back. That doesn't make any sense either. Well, anyhow, I changed the passwords, not just on that, but like on like everything, because I just like, so that should be a lesson to those who are listening, that, and this is something, and you were right, and I was trying to keep it fairly quiet because I knew you were gonna be like, but I just gave up and like complained. But one of the problems was I was using the same password for a lot of things, and I know you shouldn't do that, and I even tell my kids that you shouldn't do that. And it was a pain in the ass to go back and change everything. And I was every new account I was making a, like a different password. But and all my bank accounts and stuff like that, my credit cards on all have random generated passwords. But I didn't even think of Grubhub. And that was, and also that was shortly, I just a couple, maybe it was a week ago, I got that update from Google that a bunch of my, like this one, like a password was compromised. So I mean, it could have just been,
those are the only ones that you saved in Google.
Right.
In Chrome.
Right. So I went through and I changed every like account that had any kind of like payment attached to it, and even ones that didn't. And it took me all day. It was like all morning, and then I did something, around 12 or 1, I forget it was, and I came back and it was all afternoon. Like it took me all day. I was changing like every password I could think of. I even changed my email passwords, and even ones I didn't have a problem with, I just updated and changed them. Like, yeah, everything.
That's what you gotta do.
Wow. So yeah, it's a little scary. Not exactly fun. All right, so this one, while this may look like it is about COVID, and while it kind of is, there's more here than meets the eye, actually. And so this is an article from the New York Times that says, when the new COVID surge struck, Mississippi was uniquely unprepared. And what's more important to me on this than, and I don't want to debate whether COVID is as severe as some claim it is or not. I don't want to debate mask wearing or vaccinations. The whole point of me bringing this up is actually beyond. And it says the subtitle is "Poverty and Politics Have Left the State with Fewer Doctors and Nurses than it needs, and Hospitals on the Brink of Shutdown." And this was before the pandemic. So it's pretty bad. Now, Mississippi is I think the last time I looked, and this could be different, this was like a day or two ago that I looked, it was the worst state, I think, in the nation for new cases and for hospitalizations. I don't know if it still is, because Florida was neck and neck with them. But and I think also Alabama or Louisiana, Mississippi was the worst, well, at least a day or two ago. And they have they're using parking garages to use for like the monoclonal antibody clinics for COVID-19 patients and all that. So I mean, some people I know aren't going to believe that the hospitals are overwhelmed like they are saying they are, because, and we've talked about this before, and we've come to the realization that Americans, maybe even citizens in the world, but I can only speak for Americans, really are so used to seeing on television and in the movies blood, guts, gore, carnage, that when you see a picture like is in this article, I see a picture of a hospital in Philadelphia, Mississippi, and it says it's been overwhelmed with patients. Kevin, would you like to describe the picture you're looking at?
I see one woman sitting at a desk. I see empty floor space, and I see a couple of like rolling terminals, and that's it. There's one person in the whole picture.
Yeah, and she's on the she's on a computer or phone, maybe.
Yeah, there's like I see a couple of those screens, behind her, but I can't tell for sure if there's anybody sitting at those screens.
Yeah.
But it looks like, I don't know, it's the end of the night and there's no
Nope.
patients.
Daylight. So I see daylight out a window or a door. There are a lot of like sliding glass like doors to rooms. So I'm assuming this is like an ICU. It doesn't say, but I'm guessing because this is kind of what ICUs look like. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Generally with the sliding glass doors with the curtains and stuff like that, I think it's just because they will open wider so they can get like more like the bigger equipment in very quickly and all that. But you see a picture like this, and this bothers me. So if you want people to take the coronavirus situation seriously and the fact that they're claiming that the hospitals are overwhelmed, why are you showing a picture of what looks to be like a completely empty like floor, except for like part of a floor, except for the unit, okay, except for that one woman sitting behind, and clearly a nurse sitting behind a desk. Like, this is terrible. So
Yeah.
sorry, I needed to say that. Now,
That.
the biggest problem here is that, so, and again, I'm not even really talking about COVID in this, but so they're saying that Mississippi has waged decades of political battles over healthcare policy that can run almost as hot as the fights over the symbols of the old Confederacy. So Mississippi rejected a proposal to expand Medicaid. That's federally subsidized health insurance, right, for low-income residents. So the state said, no, we don't want that, even though it was the federal government subsidizing it. And therefore they're not getting the federal money that they need. And now a lot of small hospitals are closing up and they can't retain or recruit doctors and nurses. And apparently one of the biggest problems is that, doctors, nurses, like healthcare workers, should be getting good salaries, just like teachers should be getting good salaries. You can't say, oh, but you're supposed to be in it for the kids. Yes, but I'm also in it for a paycheck and to put a roof over my head and to help, pay bills and all that stuff. Same thing with doctors and nurses. They're in it to try to help people, but they're also in it to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
And the money is horrific down there, the pay. They can make significantly more just about anywhere else. And get this, Mississippi ranks at or near the bottom among states on key healthcare measurements, including infant mortality, childhood and adult obesity, and adults who have gone without care because they could not afford it. And then the article goes on to talk about hospitals closing. They showed like a couple hospitals that closed now. It was the only hospital in a 25-mile radius closed, and now the closest hospital is 65 miles away from this one community. 65 miles. And this isn't just Mississippi. Like, I know that the Tyler Memorial Hospital in Tunkhannock has just pretty much been closed down and it's turned into just urgent care. So now people have to drive 45 minutes at the least, probably more like an hour, to get to hospitals in Scranton and Wilkes-Barre. And you have an emergency, if you have an accident or something like that, that's precious time. So, and this is all we're talking about before the pandemic. Like, this has all been so bad before the pandemic. And now, as of Friday, they were averaging 108 new cases per 100,000 residents over a 7-day period. And their vaccination rate's at 37%. And they don't have enough healthcare workers to take care of everyone. And they're actually farming people out to Kentucky and to Texas. Like, it's insane. And so this is a situation where the state has failed its citizens. And again, even before you put COVID on that, which is the icing on the cake, like, this was all falling apart. And I don't understand, like, they're having a huge hospital labor shortage. And the federal government said they would help. And then you get this whole, like, the governor is like, no, we don't need big government intervening. It creates as many problems as it solves. So just let your people die.
So what's the solution then? If
So,
the government's not going to step in to help, or you don't want them to step in and help, then how are the people going to do it on their own? Is the question.
Yeah. And the governor has actually been a proponent of vaccines, and he's trying to get people to get vaccinated. But what are they doing instead? Last week, the state government warned that increasing numbers of Mississippians were calling the state poison control center after ingesting a drug often used for livestock deworming, which some erroneously believe can protect against the virus. So they've got that. Then the next one, the same day on WMPR 90.1 FM, a community radio station, listeners heard a fiery sermon by a pastor who argued that COVID precautions were unnecessary for those who enjoyed God's protection. As long as you're covered in the blood of Jesus, you're fine.
Right. So why do we need hospitals then?
Right. So why do we need any kind of medical care? Like, as long as you believe in God, I mean, hey, you shouldn't need to take vaccinations of any kind. You shouldn't need to go to anything.
You didn't believe hard enough.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. And then it's crazy. And then so it says a succession of conservative governors has decried the cost of Medicaid, which is shared by the federal and state governments. Governor Haley Barbour, that he was from 2004 to 2012, backed steep cuts to the program, including a divisive plan eventually blocked by a judge, thankfully, to remove 65,000 older adults and disabled people from Medicaid rolls. He said that people are gaming the system. So you're talking about people over the age of 55 in many cases. I saw somewhere else in the article. So these people are gaming the system. Older adults and disabled people. I'm not saying people don't game the system. It happens all the time. But why do they have to game the system for health care? Think about that for a minute. Like, that's the horrible part here. Like, there's no reason for this.
Well, here the next thing is people shouldn't, like, if people are feeling the need to game the system in mass, I mean, there are always going to be people who are like trying to mess with things just because they like to mess with things, or trolls or whatever, right? But if people feel in mass that they need to game the system, there's likely something wrong with the system.
Yeah.
This was the problem with like, to make an analogy with like music pirating in like 20 years ago.
Right.
Like, the price of CDs got to be so expensive that people were like, fuck you.
Yeah.
And they would go online and they figured out how they could rip the songs off and share them online, and you could download the music.
Napster was born.
Yeah. So, and then they started making it, streaming services available, and you pay a little bit of money, and then there was a problem with videos, and then they made video streaming services like Netflix and stuff that, for a reasonable price,
right,
you can get a great experience, and it's all on the up and up.
Right.
Great. Cable got to be like retardedly expensive.
Yep.
Movies got to be retardedly expensive.
Yep.
People were like, "Fuck this! I can find it online. Or I can get a bootleg in the subway, or whatever." Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing, again, like you said, the fact that people are worried that people are gaming the system when it comes to healthcare. People, so they're not making money. They're not like, I mean, maybe there are some unscrupulous doctors and such that are trying to, do Medicare fraud, but the actual people themselves who, if they have to lie to get medical treatment, like, that's just horrifying.
Yeah. I mean, the only like patient gaming system that we should be concerned about are people who are trying to obtain drugs for addictions and stuff. Yeah. But I don't think that's what we're talking about.
No. And so the one that follows up with that one.
Yeah. Nobody's gaming the system. Like,
no.
I need to get that colonoscopy, and I don't want to pay for it.
You can't make me. So the next article is a little bit of a continuation from something that was mentioned in the last one. So they were saying a lot of Mississippians were calling poison control because they were taking I'm going to say it wrong. I'm going to have to find it. What the hell's the name of it? It's ivectomycin. Oh, here it is. Ivermectin. So this article says a Texas anti-mask organizer has died from COVID-19. And his name's Caleb Wallace, and he was a leader of the anti-mask movement in Texas. I'm not judging him on the anti-mask thing at all. What I'm judging him about, so he spent 3 weeks in an intensive care unit and then died. And his wife and 4 kids plus the one she's expecting. Oh, sorry, 3 kids plus the 4th one. She's pregnant with the 4th one. First off, why are you having 4 kids in 2021?
Because you got to replace them because they're dying of COVID.
Anywho,
Going back, that's why you have to have all the kids, because some of them are going to die of COVID or
well,
something else.
so get this. So his wife,
Stray gunshot.
his wife was vaccinated. The kids all have their regular vaccines and all that. Like, they're under 12, so like they can't get COVID, but they're not anti-vaxxers.
Right.
So he was an anti-masker. It's really
Right.
hard to say these words. So, all right. So I'm not.
Did you get vaccinated?
No, he was not vaccinated, and he was against wearing masks. His wife got vaccinated, and their kids have their other, their childhood vaccines. Here's my problem. This whole thing, the thing that like makes me like not feel sorry for him at all. Sorry, not sorry. Is this dumbass. So listen to this. Mrs. Wallace, who's pregnant with the couple's 4th child, recently told the San Angelo Standard-Times that when her husband first fell ill, he took a mix of vitamin C, okay, zinc, yeah, aspirin, yeah, and ivermectin, a drug typically used to treat parasitic worms in both people and animals. It's mostly a horse dewormer, and it has been touted as a coronavirus treatment, but it was recently proved to be ineffective against the virus. So here you have this, I'm sorry, dumbass, who thought he knew better than everybody because, he did his research. And so he took this ivermectin, which, like, at the best is ineffective against treating the virus, and at the worst can poison you
So
and
why
kill
would you
you.
take that shit and not take the vaccine?
Cause poison in my veins.
Yeah.
As he pulls on his cigarette. Like it's insanity.
If you're against the vaccine, then
that's
you could
one
be
thing.
Like against medicine altogether
Yeah.
or something like.
Yeah, like this doesn't make any sense. So anyhow, so yeah, he died, and so he thought that the mask mandates and other COVID policies were government intrusion, right? And that's fine. I mean, again, you're sick of the government being in control of your life and all that. The other point is he's from Texas. Texas grows them funny down there because they were the ones too that like don't have the right electrical grid, right? And they were like they wanted to secede from the union, and
They
it's
have
like
their own electrical
yeah,
grid.
which
It's the
sucks
only
ass.
state that has their own electrical grid. Which
Right.
is why they were like, we're prepared to leave the union because we already have our own electrical grid.
And then it got really cold and people died because the electrical thing didn't work. And then the people who still had electricity wound up paying like they were paying by the usage or something like that, and
Right,
some people were
because of
getting
the free
thousands of dollars in bills for a month.
Because the price was, they agreed to contracts that the price would scale based on demand, and the demand went sky high, and so did the price. Yeah. Because the free market is great. That's how it's supposed to work.
So yeah,
Shouldn't be
so
any government regulation at
this
all.
right here to me is a beautiful example of irony at work or karma or something, because I'm sorry.
Ironic karma.
Yeah, there we go. Ironic karma. Just whatever. Ugh.
Got
All
New York
right.
Times articles here, kid.
Yeah, I know. I read the New York Times a lot. Now this one is actually something that I think was interesting. I was like, what the hell am I reading? So this is called The Return of the Pied. I looked up how to say it. Now I don't know how to say it. Damn it. Let me look this up again because it's
Hi
very...
to Terry.
No. I want to see how to pronounce it. It's
Oh, yeah.
Pied de Tar. Pied de Tar. Pied de Tar.
click it.
It's Pied... Oh, please.
Pied à terre,
Yeah, here, try to listen again. Is it Pied de Tar? Listen.
pied à terre,
No.
pied à terre,
Pied de Tar. Right there it says A. That has a long... The pronunciation has a long A. Right there. That's... Let me hear it again.
pied à terre,
That's what I was saying before. So, DuckDuckGo is saying it's pronounced pied de terre.
No. Wordnik is saying that. Wordnik is saying that.
All right, WordNick is saying that. But the way it's written out as far as pronunciation, there's a long... It's the A, the pied, is pied de terre. Well, anyhow. Pied de terre. It's French. that's why I have a problem with it. Anyhow, so it's a funny name, right? It's like, what is this? The Return of the Pied-à-Terre. And it says, with much of New York City back in business, some of the people who left during the pandemic are coming back, sort of. I found out, after reading this, that Kevin and I are part of the Pied-à-Terre, which is interesting because it's actually literally defined as a secondary or temporary place of lodging, a temporary lodging, a lodging or small apartment which one keeps for convenience to use in passing through a town. So I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. And that literally describes that, we have a small apartment that we use, for a work day. And then they're saying that a lot of people are in the same position. I'm like, oh, but then I'm looking at this couple. The picture has this couple in their cozy suite apartment. So this cozy, meaning I would think small, apartment has a big couch, has an extra chair. There's this massive like bookcase with a big screen TV, 2 big windows. This is just the living room. Like, that's not cozy in New York.
That might be the biggest part of it. Might be.
Anyhow, and then you go on and you see the house that they bought in Connecticut. It's insane. And I'm like, okay, so what do these two do for a living? So anyhow, it doesn't really matter. Like, she's like works for like Broadway, like touring groups and stuff like that. She does like the schedules and all that. But my whole point is it's kind of cool to have an actual name. I didn't know there was such a thing as, like there's actual term for, the pied-à-terre. It's not people. It's actually like the apartment itself, like a small place that you have to go. So we are going to return. We're going to go from our friend Philip calls the house here in Pennsylvania the McMansion. Mick because McCormack, right? Yeah.
Racist.
Yeah, I know. So the McMansion, I'm like, okay, it's not a mansion. But now we must return to the Pied-à-Terre on Sunday. I think it sounds fancy now. Instead, yeah, we gotta go back to Harlem. It's much fancier. I didn't know there's a whole thing like that about this, so. All right, that's just my little thing. So you have this. I will be I'll be the first to tell you that I don't really know a lot about this. I've heard about it. So you picked an article about the milk crate challenge, and I know I've seen that it's people pile up milk crates and you're supposed to walk up them and down the other side. They pile them up like steps, kind of. Is that the deal? So TikTok has banned it because you could get seriously injured. No shit, you could get seriously injured.
So yeah, the reason why I picked this is because it's been going on for a while, but there's been these different challenges.
Yeah.
And like the cinnamon challenge was like 2 years ago or something.
There's one that you eat like a ghost pepper now too, and then there's
it's all these challenges where you do risky things that are dangerous, and you get
and stupid
a crazy reaction, and you get a bunch of views on. I mean, at the time it was YouTube, and now it's TikTok, but whatever.
Instagram, all of those.
So
Snap.
the question is, the reason why I picked this, is not because this particular challenge is interesting, but it's been going on for a while. As far as responsibility goes, should these platforms, YouTube, TikTok, whatever, should they be involved in banning these things? Do they have a responsibility as a private company that is just providing a platform to share content? Do they have responsibility to ban content that is like part of I don't know, what do you call this, like a wave?
Herd stupidity?
Well, just like a popular like trend to do something that is dangerous. Like, are these platforms now at the point where they are supposed to be playing a little bit of like
Big Brother?
Not Big Brother, but
well, they're deciding that these things are not safe and going to ban it. Like,
yeah, okay,
now
sure.
It's a private company, so I guess they can do whatever they want. But I mean, now we're getting into a sticky situation because you already have people getting banned for a lot of other things. Like Facebook's gone ham on a lot of people with posting things. Like I saw a friend of mine had posted something. I don't remember what it was. It was nothing terrible at all. Like there was no reference to COVID. There was no anything. It wasn't sexually explicit. There was no violence. I don't even remember what it was anymore because it was so like blasé. And Facebook marked it as inappropriate and took it down. And so she actually took a screenshot of the original with the Facebook warning and then reposted it. And I was like, and everyone was like, what the hell? And I've been hearing that happen to a lot of people. I've never been, knock on wood, not that I care. I've never been banned on Facebook. I don't go on very often either. Um, but I've never been banned on Facebook, but I know a lot of people who have been.
I think they are, I don't know for sure, but I think they are, at least historically, they have had like farms of people that are viewing all kinds of stuff on Facebook, pictures and like written text, videos. And I think other places like Twitter might do this too, or they have in the past, where they have people, and a lot of them are in like third world countries or whatever. They train them to do this, and they just look at this stuff for hours and hours, like 10, 12 hours a day. They just look at all this crap, and they have to like rate it. You know, like you volunteer at Donors Choose, where you go through projects, right?
Mm-hmm.
But imagine instead of Donors Choose, you were doing something similar, but it was for social media posts, and you just saw like the craziest crap all the time, like violent, sexual, racist, like everything, and you had to decide what to do. I think they're trying to, and that's been like traumatizing for people. There's been articles about that where people sign to do it, and then like after like a year, they're actually like getting fucked up. So what I think they're trying to do is figure out a way to get software,
right,
to do it, and they're like maybe training some like AI software.
And it's not perfect.
And so yeah, it's making mistakes. And so I think what they want to get to the point is where AI does most of the work, and then edge cases get flagged to people, and then people will make the last decision and say, okay, this is really like bad, or it's really not, and then that feeds back into the AI for learning, so it wouldn't do it again. That's what I think they're doing.
So
because they like Facebook has like thousands of engineers working on stuff.
So back to your question, do Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Snap, all these, Twitter, do they have the right to ban stuff like this? And so now you can get into the whole idea of, well, President Trump has been permanently banned from Twitter.
Well, okay.
Right? So,
I didn't say the right to, I said the responsibility to.
Okay, so do they have the responsibility to do that? So, I mean, I know this is very different. Like, we're just talking about like a milk crate challenge. Like, I think this is, do they have the disclaimer, don't try this at home? I mean, like, there's another, that's the common sense too. Like, this is affecting people who apparently, that was my dog, and she just was yawning, so nobody think that we were beating her. Where does Charles Darwin come into this? It's kind of like, natural selection. So if you're going to be stupid enough to try something really ridiculous, go for it, I say. Let the weak ones get weeded out. So they shouldn't be.
Well, sometimes, I mean, this is censorship, right? Sometimes censorship will actually drive more interest because, like, this is taboo. Right?
Mm-hmm. True. So, and then they'll move to a different platform or something, and
right, like for a long time, TV shows and movies were like restricting like curse words and stuff, sexual content and all that. It's still done, but they've eased up quite a bit.
Yeah.
And like the first time you, as a kid, or like a young adult, I mean, the first time you see some movie or TV show that uses like profanity, it's like, oh, this whole thing. It's like, this is supposed to be taboo. You're not supposed to do this, say this. So I don't know. I mean,
but after a while, it kind of is like, okay.
Yeah. So for me, I think they should have the right to do it. I think it's a private platform. They can do what they want. Should they be doing it? I guess it depends on, for me, I guess it depends on the kind of platform you want to build, right?
Well, what's their mission statement? Like, is it in their mission statement that this is for fun and, whatever, or?
Right. And then the next question is like, where should the line be when it comes to like banning stuff? Is it? I don't know. I mean, I guess part of it is like, what would the platform be if they? What would the platform be like if they didn't do this? Or let's do something a little different. What would the platform be if they didn't ban like any kind of sexual content and you could post like whatever for a short time?
Like OnlyFans.
For a short time, I think it's YouTube or something. There was some platform where it was like you watched like a nice little video. It was like cute or something, and then they flashed like a penis in your face, it like came into the video. It was like spliced in, and you would show this to people, and they'd be like, "Wait, what did I just see?" Or like or something like super sexual, or whatever. And then those things were like slipping through because it was like one frame.
Right. Well, I mean,
should those be banned? Like,
well, now you've got, but so, and I just said it, like, wow, I just lost my train of thought. You're just saying that, like, talking about things that would be banned and shit. I just had a really good point, and then you made me forget it because you kept talking.
It was so great. I already got it.
No, you didn't. Damn it.
Yeah, I think. I kind of think. I don't know. I kind of think maybe there should be sort of like tiers. Not tears and you cry, but like three levels.
TIERS. So the OnlyFans thing, look what they found out, right? So OnlyFans, they have a lot of at-home porn stars, right? Because you pay. Yeah, that was the thing. I haven't either, but I know that that's what it's used for a lot. Like a lot of people you can pay to have access.
You have to be a member,
and
like Patreon or something.
Yeah, and then like, somebody will like, take their clothes off or do something lewd or what. I mean, it's like porn. It's like pay for porn. They tried to eliminate that. They were saying they weren't going to allow that anymore, and they lost something like 30% of their customer base, like that. And it's like, and then they went back to saying it's okay to have it. So there you go. So there's a company that tried to take a stand, and like, oh shit.
Now I don't know much about it, but I'm assuming it's behind like a subscription, right?
Yeah.
So you're paying for it,
right?
Which is a little different than like a public thing like YouTube,
right?
Or,
Instagram, TikTok.
I think
all
those
those.
are all. I think TikTok's public, right?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
I never used it.
But... I refuse to. All right. Well, with that interesting note, we're going to. It's 10:30 and it's time. We do not have 5 more minutes.
Okay, this one 2 minutes.
I am opposed to this.
You're fine. So the last one, we're on to something a little bit nicer because I didn't realize the last one was going to be so thick or whatever. This video looks terrible. I think
I'm not watching the video. It's stupid. I just saw the pictures. Just explain what this. I think this whole. I don't know why you picked this. Who cares? Go ahead. Explain it.
Someone has an apartment in England, and they were renovating it, and they found a really cool old window behind the drywall. They pulled on the drywall, and they found a window that's like 120 years old.
Yes, it's between the kitchen and like the living room. It was a borrowed window because they did borrow the light from the other room.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Like you're doing renovation, you take on the drywall, and you find like an old window. I think that's pretty cool. Like I don't know why you would cover that up, but I just think it's cool. That's all I want to show.
I think that this one here that I'm not going to click on, woman finds abandoned 1900s cellar beneath her apartment filled with food, is much more interesting.
Wow.
Man discovers mysterious secret window leading to third room in his house. Couple finds secret bathroom hidden behind wall. Right. Well, we saw a movie. There was a movie or something where they were like, it was like a possessed house. It was haunted. Something was wrong, and they had like, they went up into the like the attic, and there was like this whole wall, like they broke through there was a window from the outside that they realized that they couldn't figure out because they moved into the house. They couldn't figure out where the window was, and they broke through and found like this walled room up in the attic, and it was like all this writing on the wall, like they must have like imprisoned these little kids back there, like it was some sort of like, it was like an old school like Mormon like family, and like they had like a whole bunch of kids, and like father was like weird and like shoved all the girls in the back. Yeah, it was. I don't remember I don't know if it was like a true story kind of thing, or if it was like a ghost story thing, or if it was a real movie. I just remember that. Yeah, that's weird. I wouldn't want to find some shit like that in my house. I'm like, okay, time to move. Creepy.
Yeah.
All right, now on that, can we say goodnight?
Sure.
So bizarre. I'm just gonna say goodnight. What are you gonna say?
You already said goodnight.
Okay, fine. I'm asking if you wanted to say something, but I guess you don't.
I already said my something.
Something? Have a wonderful evening, folks.